A number of tough female warriors have shaped history, as they fought a patriarch state by their physical and mental strength, ultimately showing that warfare was not a domain of men alone. Women were mostly restricted to traditional roles in ancient civilizations. However, some fierce women broke this tradition both at home and in the battlefield. One of these individuals was a Viking warrior that was buried with weapons. A female warrior who was for a long time believed to be a Viking could have really been a Slavonic female warrior, who over 1,000 years ago had migrated from present-day Poland to Denmark. The discovery has come during debates about the existence of the female warriors during the age of the Vikings and the roles they played. Researchers started by locating the woman's burial chamber on an island in Denmark, and found it containing bones and Arabian coins from the 10th century, a period when Denmark was inhabited by Vikings. This particular grave was the only one containing weapons in the whole cemetery, a fact that made the researchers conclude this was the female Viking warrior's grave. A literature and Scandinavian language researcher at the University of Bonn in Germany took the study from a different perspective. While studying women's graves that had weapons from the 9th and 10th century in Denmark, he noticed that the axe in the woman's grave and the type of grave both suggest that she was of Slavonic origin. In particular, the axe seems to originate from the southern region of the Baltic Sea, which is possibly today's Poland. In an interview with Science in Poland, he said that the Slavic warrior presence in Denmark had more significance than initially imagined. The rising number of female fighters in the Viking Age has in recent years become a hot debate topic. After the 2017 announcement that the decorated warriors' bones in the Viking settlement of Sweden were actually female, researchers were astounded and wanted to carry out more tests to try and get a better picture of the individual. Some wondered whether the graves were warriors as they contained weapons of high quality, imported uniforms, a gaming set and 2 horses. The Birka warrior, unlike other Viking women who were buried with weapons, was not dressed in any female clothing or jewelry. Charlotte Johnson, a co-author in the 4th issue of American Journal of Physical Anthropology, said that in the Viking world, identity based on gender was something they could only speculate about. She continues to say in another paper that the Vikings probably didn't consider this particular warrior as a woman, despite there being analysis that suggested the bone structure was of a female. Conclusive evidence was presented in 2017 by Charlotte and her team, explaining that DNA obtained from the teeth and bones confirmed this individual as a female. These findings were however criticised, with some critics even suggesting they were testing the wrong bones. Others suggested this could have been a female warrior who dedicated her life to battle, and was someone who would have been respected by her peers. Despite Vikings buried with weapons before, none of them can compare to what was found in this particular grave. The amount and type of objects that were found suggested a professional fighter, and the game board pointed towards a role of command. Additionally, a tasseled cap which was originally set aside for leaders was found at the grave. Even though the results of this study may lead researchers to re-examine graves, Johnson and a team of researchers have embarked on new projects. Another female warrior is that of Grace OMalley. Grace OMalley was a fierce woman who for 40 years defied the English monarch by ransacking English ships, fighting any forces that would try to take land that belonged to her family. She defied all odds in a male-dominated world, and earned the allegiance of her subjects in a winning team. Grace was born in 1530 to OMalley, the chief of the ruling clan of the area around Clew Bay on Ireland's western coast. At the time, they accumulated wealth from piracy and also legal trade with Spain and France. After her father passed on, Grace was made queen of her clan, as she knew about navigating local politics through the formation of strategic alliances. During that time, the use of women in the creation of alliances through marriage was common, and was intended to bring more power to the involved men. Grace OMalley, however, reversed this principle as she was married twice, and on the contrary, it was her power that increased each time as she married. After the passing of her first husband in 1554, Grace inherited his wealth. In 1567, after a year of marriage, Grace divorced her husband, retained his castle, and maintained his loyalty as an ally to her kingdom. She had many men and numerous ships at her disposal when she was in power. Tales of Grace OMalley's courage and skills in seafaring have been passed down in Irish folklore. One of the accounts tells of when she was attacked by a Turkish ship, and this happened a day after she had given birth. On the boarding of the Turks, she jumped off the bed, storming into the deck while armed with blunderbusses, and took out the Turkish officers. OMalley easily captured the Turkish ship, after the remaining Turks were shocked by her taking down their officers. In 1574, England sent ships to end Grace's expeditions, but she repulsed them in a humiliating retreat. Grace OMalley was matched in 1584, when Sir Richard Bingham's men killed her eldest son, and captured her youngest, taking control of her stronghold and confiscating her wealth, ultimately bringing her to her knees. With no other option, Grace OMalley made history in 1593 when she sought audience with Queen Elizabeth I. Historical accounts of the meetings vary greatly. However, what is certain is that Elizabeth ordered that OMalley's son be released, and her properties returned in exchange for OMalley's support in the English battles against their rivals. OMalley proved to be a worthy rival to Queen Elizabeth's military capabilities. She was among the few rivals to earn the respect of the Queen of England. The last years of Grace OMalley remain a mystery. She passed on in 1603, which is the same year that Queen Elizabeth I died, but her memory lives on. Another female warrior is Lozan. Lozan is among the fiercest female warriors in history, equipped with her sharpness of mind, excellent fighting skills, and mysterious talent of accurately predicting the enemy's next move. Nicknamed Apache Joan of Arc, she was sister to Victoria, a prominent Apache chief. Born in the 1840s, Lozan portrayed abilities that were past her age, even in her childhood. The role of most women in Apache were confined in the home and community. However, Lozan defied this, portraying more interest in the art of war. She became a warrior and a medicine woman, a role that was uncommon amongst her people. She was a right-hand woman to her brother, using her talent mostly to help him as he planned his attacks. She could predict the enemy's location, making the Apache a step ahead in wars. She was a tough woman. One of her legends narrate that she at one time delivered a child amongst the desert, while they were on the run from a US cavalry. Their people had been invaded so many times by Mexico and the US military that they were always on the move. Despite this, she did not give up. She did all she could to protect her people. In the 1870s, Chief Victoria and his people were forced out of their homes to the San Carlos reservation, where living conditions were deplorable. They moved from this reservation in 1877 and started raiding other places, all while trying not to be captured by the US military. Lozan was always beside Victoria as they battled the Americans. As they fled the American military, Lozan was an inspiration to the women of Apache to cross the Rio Grande that was surging. During the final times of Victoria's campaigns, Lozan escorted a mother who had just delivered across the desert to the Apache reservation, far from the trail's hardships. They only had a 3-day food supply, one rifle, a knife and a cartridge belt as they set on a journey across an area inhabited by US and Mexican cavalries. On their journey, she killed a longhorn for meat using a knife as she was afraid that a gunshot sound would sell them out. She stole a Mexican horse to be used by the new mother, and escaped through a valley of gunshots. It's then that she learned of the Mexican army's ambush on Victoria and his people. Aware that she was needed by her people, she left the reservation and crossed the desert undetected by the cavalries and rejoined her people. She fought beside Geronimo, who was now the new chief. According to historical reports, Geronimo and his followers, included Lozan, fled after hearing rumors that Apache leaders would be captured and imprisoned on the island of Alcatraz. They had been negotiating peace treaties which the Americans dismissed. Losum was imprisoned after Geronimo's surrender and died of tuberculosis in 1889 while in confinement. So what do you make of these impressive female warriors? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.